SG Reads.
Hello fellow travelers, my name is SG and welcome to the channel. Today we'll be going over the graphic novel version of the novel series of Five Nights at Freddy's, the Silver Eyes series. We'll be doing both the Silver Eyes book, then the Twisted Ones, and then finally we'll be doing the final of the series, The Fourth Closet. And maybe we'll even talk about the very last, or newest, graphic novel they've done for Fazbear Frights, Book 1. For now, we're going to just stick with those areas around there, how they reference the games, the story, and even how they affect the movies overall, because they do affect the movies more than the actual games do. But before we start, please leave a like, comment, subscribe down below. I'd really appreciate it. And let's get started, shall we? The story has one canon storyline going, and it reaches all 3 books. It starts with Charlie, who is a teenager in college, maybe about the age of 19 at this point, going back to her hometown where they are celebrating the anniversary of a missing child's case named Michael. They are celebrating it because they want to be there to support his family and parents in this troubling time, but more than anything, they kind of want to figure out what is happening too. Charlie is accompanied by her 4 to 5 friends and one of her friends' little brother, who she has known since she was a child too. In this storyline, they go to investigate the pizzeria. Though it has been more than 10 years since the incident happened, they feel that they can go there and see if they can find any evidence to support if they know what happened. They do remember small bits here and there, but overall they can't remember exactly what happened on the day itself. Finding the animatronics, Freddy, Chica, Foxy, and Bonnie, they end up having this realization that the pizzeria is still functioning. And with the company of a creepy security guard named Dave in the pizzeria, they managed to find not only that it works, but that the animatronics had been kidnapping people from the very beginning of it all. With Dave donning the iconic Springtrap suit, he tries to capture all the Charlie and her friends in the final episode of the book, but is ultimately captured by his own Springlock suit, ending book 1 right there with all of them getting away and reporting it to the cops. Book 2, The Twisted Ones, continues from that point on, where now Charlie, now knowing the truth, or at least being infected by it, is having nightmares of her little brother that she believes went missing, called Sammy. Now she is constantly going back to her hometown to look at the rubble that was Fazbear Entertainment. Still left with more questions than actual answers in this storyline, she goes through the rubble, finds that there are more missing people coming up every day thanks to the sheriff talking to them, mainly due to the fact that she is the daughter of Henry Emily, one of the co-owners of the Fazbear Entertainment industry. Now she is looking into these missing peoples and finding that they all have a similar vibe to them, similar to her in a certain way. They all kind of look like her. But moving forward, it finds out that the animatronics themselves are not the same ones from the original Fazbear location. They are different ones from different locations, burying themselves underground and hiding in the mid-daylight and going to a certain location. They are not sure where though. And it ends with finding the aunt's house to Charlie and finding out that she may not be who she is exactly. Charlie, that is. And it ends with her getting knocked out and being attacked by a group of rogue animatronics, and a new Charlie appearing out of nowhere, seeming a little older and a little different overall. We then go to the Silver Eyes storyline from the Twisted Ones and into the Fourth Closet, the final book of the novelization. And here we get the full spectrum, I guess you could say, of the story, where they are trying to figure out what is wrong with the new Charlie. She seems different, a little more aggressive than she was before. John, the one that has been trying to get a date with Charlie at this point, automatically realizes that there's something not right with this version of Charlie. There's no way this is Charlie. She's acting too out there, too suspicious. So in an attempt, they go look into it along with the sheriff, who is not quite settled with the missing persons case of the animatronics. And from there we do get this idea that there is a bigger conspiracy happening here. After studying and looking into the missing children's cases so far, they go back to the location that was originally Fazbear Entertainment and find that it's been replaced with a place called Circus Babies. And Circus Babies is a clown-based animatronic pizzeria restaurant and seems to be very popular. But it's secretly been missing children too, and it's gone under the radar so far. One of her friends, Jessica, ends up being captured by the animatronics and brought forth to William Afton, who was not Dave, but was controlling Dave. Dave was a mimic overall, not quite an animatronic, but not quite a person. So, William Afton says that he wants to gain immortality by getting some semblance from these animatronics who have been in agony and torture for all these centuries, or for all these years. Their spirits still haunt these animatronic bodies, and thinking that if he can control them, he can learn more about them. And control them he tries, and hypnotizing them in a certain way. Charlie, the real one we know, is hidden at the same location, where the other Charlie, who is a little older, tries to fight John and her in an attempt to replace her in a way. She hates Charlie, the one that we've been following since the first book. In fact, we're going to start calling this older Charlie Circus Baby, or just Baby for short. Turns out Charlie and Baby were both creations of Henry Emily in an attempt to recreate his daughter, who had been pretty much scooped by Baby at a young age. The original Elizabeth, if you will, was not Charlie. Charlie was just a toy that Elizabeth played with growing up. And now that they have these memories, these connections, it turns out Baby is Charlie's spirit trapped inside an animatronic. Only Henry didn't realize that and locked her away in an turned on position, meaning she was aware while she was trapped all these years in this closet, the fourth closet, if you will. And it was William Afton that found her and gave her a new mission, to capture as many children as she can along with Charlie in an attempt to recreate the process that Henry made. Now we're going to leave it at that because I don't want to spoil the ending, and I do think that this is just a rush kind of synopsis of the storyline overall. I do suggest reading the original novelization, or do it like I did and you can read the novels, because they are very fairly done, they're very good, they're interesting at least, to keep your attention. I do feel that the ending does go a little bit off kilter, and there are certain holes that you could poke into it overall, but it's not bad. I like it and it's interesting. Now, Charlie and John as the main protagonist and the supporting cast are fine, I guess. They fulfill the role of what they were trying to show. I just felt that at a certain point they were a little bland, that they don't really do much other than be a romantic couple towards the end of the whole series, and even then that's not really kind of a main factor till the very end of the story, where John actually becomes more of an active role in the third book. As for Charlie, we do get this idea that there is something wrong. We do get this kind of angsty vibe. But overall, I don't really feel like an interesting in her character. I get that it's mainly going to be the story around her character is what's, pushing the story along. But if I had to say, I think Baby was a much more interesting character overall. But that's to be expected, considering it's a Five Nights at Freddy's property. The art is fine, for the most part. I think it's good. I think it could be a little more detailed, but I do like the way they interpret the characters. When certain things do look exactly like the game, it is very well done. The characters are very distinctive, you can kind of tell. There was a couple characters that I felt kind of looked too much the same. John and the other, Chandler, I think his name was, character. They felt like a little too much the same, and it was easy to get them mixed up here and there. But overall, it flowed well, it did good. And it really represented the original novels overall more than anything else. So, I think that can be said to help support more of the storyline going forward. If they are going to do it forward, which they kind of leave open to being a bigger possibility. Especially since we know there are more games in the series after Sister Location. Now that we've talked about the novel, I want to talk about something that I kind of noticed, like reading it, and that is that it's definitely heavily inspired the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. There are a lot of things that are thrown in there, and that they kind of separate Charlie's character and John and mix them a little bit into like a pot kind of situation. Where if we look at the character Michael from the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, you could definitely tell that he is more related to John mixed with Charlie in the situation. The fact that we are getting this idea that his dad may have had something to do with the Five Nights at Freddy's location, Freddy Fazbear. At the same time, he has a little sister that he's trying to protect. Again, we do get this idea that he is missing a little brother too, which is a main point in the storyline overall in the Silver Eyes series. And more specifically, it's more related to the first book. The idea that he is taking the role of pretty much security guard, Charlie, and John at once. And then the rest of the characters are pretty much kind of embodied in the other character, the side characters, Vanessa overall. And in a weird way, it's meant to kind of represent both the video games and the books, while leaning heavily on the books as a source more than anything else. Evidence supporting this can go very deep actually, because at the very end of the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, they are revealed to be the Springtrap suit being the bad guy through the pictures. And we do get that same scene happening in the book at the very end, leading the animatronics to help defend the small child that's in the first book, along with the same thing happening in the first movie. So there are a bunch of compare and size up kind of situations, just told slightly differently to make it different, but it is supposedly the same exact way in a certain point of view. So this could lead to like a whole different discussion of the books actually being the ones showing us where the sequels are going to end up. Whether that's good or bad is really up to you. I think it's an okay idea. I feel like they should do it more leaning towards the games more than anything else. Because even though the books were fine, they were good. I did like them, like I said before. I do think that you need to go with more of the source material. Because while these are good, the games are great in a certain way. It's just a matter of telling a cohesive storyline, which even I have to admit the books kind of lost during the second to third transition, if you will. Now, another graphic novel that isn't really talked about that much, but I really did enjoy, was Fazbear Frights. They did a graphic novel version of the stories, of the short stories they did, but the two I wanted to talk about was because they are very relevant right now. Mainly because Into the Pit just came out, which is, as you know, a short story told in Fazbear Frights, which was adapted into a graphic novel as well. Into the Pit and To Be Beautiful, to be specific, I want to talk about those two, because To Be Beautiful is definitely one of those stories that was adapted into a graphic novel and is a mini game into the Pit. So, is that a weird connection that we're getting that together? That to me is weird to point out because these are only stories that only the hardcore Five Nights at Freddy's fans have read, or at least young adults might have read, maybe at a school fair or something. So that tells me that they have importance to the storyline, which to a larger extent tells me that the Fazbear Frights, or maybe even all of them, like Tales from the Pizzaplex or something like that, all have some significance into the main story. We've always hypothesized that maybe the little elements here and there were canon to the main story, such as I did in my previous Henry theory for Five Nights at Freddy's. But with what we know now, how the books relate to the movies, along with this becoming a game, kind of tells us that maybe the short stories are to be taken literal. That there is, in fact, something going on behind the main canon. Like, these things are happening between the events of possibly the last Five Nights at Freddy's game, going to the security breach game, or maybe even in between where Michael was barely burning down locations. We don't really know, because they're not really missing children's cases. These are just isolated incidents happening one by one. And we do get that idea that Baby in the main 3 trilogy books would be doing the same thing she did in the To Be Beautiful story, that she's slowly replacing herself with the main protagonist. So the idea still persists and remains in a certain way. So that's just food for thought on that one. Again, the art in it's very well done. I do actually enjoy the Fazbear Frights graphic novels a little bit more, mainly due to the idea that they're very creative with it, and they're allowing themselves to be a little more lenient with the storyline. It may not be exact canon to it all, but it does have some entertainment value to it. If we're going with that train of thought, what does that mean for the Five Nights at Freddy's sequel? Well, to be honest with you, it seems like someone's going to burn down the pizza place that we were in the first movie, naturally, and the animatronics will be gone, they'll be missing. The little girl will probably look for them, try to find them, find that there's tracks leading out to a certain location, a certain direction. And we do know Vanessa's probably still in the hospital, where she'll probably be there for the remainder of the movie, or probably up to the very end, much like the books. And we'll have somebody inviting Michael to another location, where he will be confronted with the spirit of his little brother. Maybe to tell him his story, just like in the books, where we do know that that version of Michael, as the locator went missing, is trying to tell his story as a Golden Freddy. Now, whether this version of Michael is a Golden Freddy in the movies, I don't think so. There's much to be revealed that it might be the puppet in this scenario, which is a different, other kind of take to it, but it is what it is. We may meet Henry in the disguise of the sheriff, because that would make more sense. Because as we know in the books, the sheriff becomes a more prominent character, but we have no build up to that, other than the idea that maybe someone claiming to be Vanessa's father is getting in on the mix, being the current sheriff of the small town. But we don't have that because we don't have the bigger cast members to it. All the cast members were taken out pretty much by the animatronics at the end of the first movie. So we may have Henry coming in as a sheriff or inviting Michael to another location. But either way, this all means the same thing as in the books. Sister location will probably be the last of the movies, in the third movie probably. Maybe that means that we will see twisted animatronics or withered animatronics in the sequel. Like, that's just another train of thought that we could be seeing later on, where animatronics are digging themselves into the ground, waiting to pop up. And I don't think Michael's going to end up being an animatronic in this one. I think he's going to take more of the place of John. And it's going to be Vanessa who is the animatronic in this one. So we'll see how this plays out, but that's my theory for what the movies have in store for us after going over the graphic novels and the regular novels themselves. Which, it does feel that that's the direction we're going to be seeing at the end of the day. Now, one of the last things I want to talk about for the books is that while they're not canon exactly, there are segments of them that are, as we said before. So I think that the real motivation of William Afton is actually said in the novels, more than anything else. I think that's actually something they want to point out quite a bit, honestly. And that being that William Afton was one of the first victims of the spring-lock suits. Let me explain on that. We do know that William Afton does get trapped in the spring-lock suit, unable to die at the very end of his storyline. But I want to say that during the testing process, back when it was just two people in suits running the restaurant, or being the animatronics, Henry and William got trapped and stuck inside the spring-lock suit. He got hurt. He even goes as far as show them that he does have the marks of when it pressed against his skin, and how he almost was taken out by it. But at the end of the day, he managed to dig himself out and able to save himself. But that twisted him. That made him worse, because now he has the thrill of not dying, but of escaping death, cheating death. Suddenly he became aware of his own mortality, while at the same time became more of addicted of escaping death than anything else. So it became a thrill in a certain way, which sparked this sick obsession with death, if you will. Suddenly he had to find more ways to get over it, or get past it. Being absorbed in death became his life all of a sudden. Henry, on the other hand, was absorbed with life. He wanted to bring life into his creation, live his life. So that's really where I think the story is really about. This separation between Henry and William. One person obsessed with life, the other one obsessed with death. And more specifically, obsessed with surpassing it, outsmarting death, if you will. So, does that explain William's dark obsession? Maybe. I don't know. But it's definitely something to think about and something they do highlight in the first chapter of the books. Alright, I'd like to thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe down below. Like I said before, I do enjoy these book series. I really do. If I had to give the main trilogy a rating, it'd be 7 out of 10. And that is because the art's okay, could be better. Story's good, but kind of loses itself at the end. I still like it, I still read it, and I'm probably going to read it again. But I cannot say that it is a perfect storyline. It could use work and it could be developed more on as we go on forward. As for the Fazbear Frights, I would give that one an 8 out of 10, mainly because it's made to be creative, goofy, and silly, while at the same time trying to be a bit of a horror. Not a great storytelling catalyst, but I can accept it as being like a Goosebumps or kind of being something along those lines. I can appreciate it for the art and everything that goes along with it. I hope you guys enjoyed my small theories and my review of the graphic novels along with the Fazbear Fright graphic novels. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you guys again next time.